Welcome back to another episode of Just a Minute. I'm Austin Smith, and I'm joined today by Hoop Scene editor Justin Young. JY is back for another episode, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. Wednesday is like my favorite day because we've got a chance to put last week's event behind us. We're kind of in the middle of getting ready for next week's event. So Wednesday's become my new weekend, So I'm feeling really good, man. I always love being with you too, man.
Hey, man, hump days are good days, man. I like Wednesdays too. No doubt about it. All right, JY. So the national championship game, brother, just passed earlier this last Monday, man. And, it's always pretty cool when there's a connection you have to those national championship games. In particular, two Georgia guys from Baylor, Davion Mitchell and Adam Flagler, not only just Georgia guys, but hoop scene guys, guys that have played on our stage. And when you look long-term, man, that's for us what it's about. We love helping players get to that next level and then the ultimate level, which is that national championship. Let's start there, man. Tell me your thoughts about that whole entire process.
It's funny. We talk about your game, your stage, your story, and the end part of that is your story, right?
Yeah.
And so, we provide the stage, the players provide the games, and the story is what plays out by all the work that's put into it.
Right.
And it was really cool, watching the whole tournament, watch Baylor go through that whole process. And here you have a guy, Davion Mitchell and Adam Flagler. Both of those guys played with us in the Georgia Cup when they're 13, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And so they've experienced the entire process of what the hoop scene platform is, right? That entire stage. So it's so cool to see those guys. Davion he played for the Coastal Crew Rebels. See, it's Wednesday. I told you, man, it's weekend.
It happens, bro. It happens.
The Coastal Crew Rebels, when he was, 14 and under. Adam Flagler played for his dad. May have been a tap-out team. I can't remember off my head from back in the day, but he played for his father back in the day. And so we saw these guys go through the process of playing at Georgia Cup when we first started that series. Davion was so impressive as a youngster. Then we invited him to our elite camp and came to multiple elite camps. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we launched the new version of Hoop Scene that we have now, I think Davion Mitchell was the third overall profile we ever created on hoopscene.com.
Oh, wow.
So he's got stories upon stories upon stories on our platform. Sure. Of course, Adam Flagler, I thought he was really, really good when he played for Coach Cabral Huff over at Duluth High School and had a number of showings over there. Playing with them. He also played for the Atlanta All-Stars with Davion. We know he switched over to the EYBL and played with the Georgia Stars. And that Stars group we had with us all the time. They played Colin Sexton time and time again. And they had played all these just powerhouses at Bob Gibbons and Best of South a couple different times. So it was really cool to see those guys. And we knew the process of what they got to. And so when you watch the broadcast, did you notice this? People are going crazy about Davion's first step. We're like, man, we've been seeing this dude do this since 13.
It's been that way, yeah.
And then Adam, of course, is a big time shooter. Is something that we saw time and time again. We saw that our elite camps and our preview camps.
Right.
So it was pretty awesome to see the process for guys that we've known, and it got me excited to think about guys that we have now that may be in our 13 and 14 year division. And Austin, you've been there with Georgia Cup. How good is our 13 and 14 year division of Georgia Cup?
13 and 14 divisions always produce players that we just happen to see the next couple of years blow up. I mean, it happens every time. And I tell players and coaches all the time, I'm like, man, hey, don't just look at this as a regular Georgia Cup stop. You never know who you might see on court 7 or court 5 or court 2. They're the future stars of tomorrow, man. You know, it's crazy.
And those guys were those guys right back in the day, like Adam and Davion. And so, their stories really interesting. Both of them are transfers. Of course, Davion went to Auburn. Adam went to Presbyterian. They both ended up at Baylor, playing for a tremendous staff. And now it's just so cool to see those guys on the national platform. I went to this really cool restaurant. I had all my brothers, all my nephews. We had a total bros night on Monday night to go watch the game. And the place is packed, which was pretty awesome also. And we're just watching the game, and it was so cool to see everybody get excited about guys that we've known about for the last, 6-7 years. And so that was really neat to kind of be a part of that experience as a fan of the game, but also a fan of these young men and know the work that they put into it. And I think that's the thing too, that we see with the association and all the teams that come play with us. We know all the work that goes into that process to get to that level. And it's not, you can't just show up. You can't have 10,000 followers on Instagram. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
And those two guys did the work, and was so happy to see both of them, hold that trophy up at the end of the night.
Right, man. And again, the word you said, JY, was work. And that's something that, players need to make sure they're aware of is the work. Cameras are everywhere now and film is good, but make sure you're producing come game time as well. Talking about that, JY, also, that means college basketball is a wrap. As far as the games are playing, it's done. So now we're full-time heading into grassroots basketball. And for us at Hoop Scene, we're on a roll, brother. I mean, you talk about tip-off, Bama Jam, Atlanta Jam. We're rolling full steam, man. Let's talk about these first 2 weeks into the association. What have you seen so far, man? What's been your thoughts?
It's been interesting. 2 different events, 2 totally different feels. Like the tip-off was a tremendous event. Bama Jam was a tremendous event. We talked about last week. It's one of my favorite events. So, obviously, I'm out west, and I'm watching on the Be the Beast stream. But it still had that same level of intensity because it was that tournament style. Right. And so we saw a number of teams really kind of show up and play out. I love this PSB Nashville team. I think they're tremendous. I think they're a team that will absolutely go out there and compete, and they'll do their thing week in and week out. Right. And I think that's something that we saw again with them this weekend, is that they won both the 17 and 16U division. And I think that's something that you cannot mess around with. But that was also an opportunity for us on the association side of things to watch teams from our association go out there and do work. It was our first time to see the Tennessee Tigers, who year in and year out are a program that are really good. They've added some size with a 7-footer and David Craig, and then a shooter, Yerald Yasis. I hope I didn't mispronounce his name, an available senior. That changes the whole dynamic of their team. They got probably the best shooter in the association as well, Paxton Davidson. And so seeing new groups of teams, so it's been really nice to have 2 different showings with 2 different groups of teams to really look at a total package of the Hoop Scene Association. I think that's the part that's been really good.
Yeah, and the thing you hit on too, JY, was you're getting teams from everywhere now. Tip off, then go to Bama, then we go to, Atlanta Jam, and then that's going to lead up for the grassroots showcase and everything else. Where are we at with the Atlanta Jam, JY, and the grassroots showcase? What can people be expecting? What are you seeing? What's in your mind, man? We all want to know.
Yeah. So it's kind of come to a head. So the Atlanta Jam this weekend is going to be awesome. I think we've got about 160 teams. I still wish we could get more courts. I think we could have 300 teams for this event. I think we're still kind of inching back towards full capacity because of gym space. But the teams that we have are awesome. I think last count it was 24 teams in the 17U division that were Hoop Scene Association teams, or maybe that was total. Regardless, there was 24 or so Hoop Scene Association teams, which is really interesting because for me, I've created my non-scientific JYI test power rankings
for the Hoop Scene
Association. Okay, I'm not a scientist. I can barely count to 7, so I'm not even that great. But I wanted to put it together. So I've come up with my own listing based on the wins and losses and what my eyes have seen. Here are my top teams. As we kind of set the stage for what all these teams will be at the Grassroots Showcase in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll talk about that in a second. My top team overall so far, 2 weeks into the association, is Florida Pro. I don't think there's any denying that. I think they're going to be probably the team that has the biggest bullseye on their back.
Right.
I was really torn after that because I thought Team Spates really impressed me. I love Jamar Franklin. I went back and watched more film of that kid on Be the Beast this week. I think that guy's a really, really good player. 6'3", can flat out shoot. Another guy that's going to be really good for most Spates.
Yeah.
But I think the Tennessee Tigers, based on what I saw from them at the Bama Jam, I think they're our second best overall team right now in the association. Yeah. And they've got just a monster schedule coming up this weekend with the Atlanta Jam. Big matchup with the Atlanta All-Star, the team that I have in our top 6. In the JY's unofficial scientific eye test rankings.
Yeah.
Sponsored by whoever wants to pay for that. I don't care who it is, but I'll take sponsorship for that. Maybe Pro Vision wants to sponsor that because that'd be pretty good. So Florida Pro, Tennessee Tigers, Team Spates. Florida Pro's unsigned senior team. They're really, really good.
Right.
I've got them checking at number 4. Number 5, I've got Tide, which I don't really like Tide, so maybe we need to have them battle out. But I thought the Atlanta Timberwolves Green with Aiden Hadaway and then the Atlanta All-Stars are both right there. I think they're neck and neck. And I think both of those teams have their hands full this weekend with the Atlanta Jam. So the unofficial JY Power Rankings, I think, are going to really get shuffled up quite a bit after this weekend from the Atlanta Jam. And then from there, we've got CP25 out of Alabama, Mississippi. I think those teams, basically between my 4 and 13, there's a huge group of guys with CP25, Rod Howard Select, the Hype Hawks, D Favors, Atlanta Timberwolves Green, Carolina Pressure, Hawks Elite. I think all those teams right there are pretty similar. And I know with Team Spates, Alabama, they're missing their top player.
I remember that.
So we still have some things that are going to be playing itself out. That's why I think the Atlanta Jam this weekend will so we also have new teams that we haven't had yet. We've got Griffin Elite coming down from Kentucky.
Right. Yeah,
we've got core fours going to be playing with us. Anthony Arrington, an all-state kid from Galloway School. I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, Tampa Bayhawks coming up from Florida are going to be playing with us. TNBA's got a couple other teams going to be playing with us. We've got I'm just kind of looking at our deal. Listen to this too, Austin. We got some teams. We got a team from Seattle coming to the Atlanta Jam. We got a team coming from California. We've got a team coming down from Connecticut. So we've got some good geographic diversity. They're going to be playing in this as well. But nevertheless, I think this weekend with the Atlanta Jam will now give us in totality the entire association for what we're looking at as we get ready for the Grassroots Showcase in Louisville.
Right.
I was talking to my partner Mike Eddy the other day. And so Mike told me something, and I was like, "You remember how tired we were at the Best of South a few years ago? Like, remember we had to walk from like court 1 to like court 32? Like, how long did it take? Austin,
that's a journey,
bro. Mike said it's literal a mile from one end of the courts to the other at the Kentucky Expo Center.
Expo Center?
1 mile, a mile long. Now I don't know if that's hyperbolic. But we'll have 55 courts under one roof. And, of course, all that's spaced out. All of it's spaced out. It gives us a little bit of room for people to have some spacing. Of course, everybody's going to need to wear a mask in there.
Right.
I'm sure there'll be some concerns. But we're going to have over 500 teams. Between us, NY to LA, and Ohio basketball, I think we'll have over 500 teams for this. And I think this is going to be the stage that everybody's been talking about. We haven't had a monster stage like this in the spring on a national level. Maybe ever. There's some that top probably 500 teams, but I think this moving forward could be the preeminent event of the spring. And I'm really excited about that. We've got shoot teams, we've got non-shoot teams, we've got the top HSA teams, we've got the top association teams from NY to LA. Of course, Ohio basketball is going to have a lot of teams. So what we're going to have for teams in that setting is that you're going to have a team from Georgia playing a team from Utah. You're going to have a team from Chicago playing a team from Florida. You're going to have a team from Ohio playing a team from Mississippi. And so, like, we're getting back to what the old days were, when I loved it. And we're having a lot of this competitive geographic diversity, which is something that I think teams really want to have.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really necessary, I think, for grassroots basketball. So I'm very excited about that. By the way, if you're watching this, coach, don't waste any time. Go get signed up. Get yourself locked in. We obviously have tons of room, but I think this is a stage that your program is going to want to be a part of.
Right.
But we are filling that thing up pretty fast. And so I think that's going to be the stage that if you're not a part of that, I don't want you looking at Twitter on Saturday, April 24th, thumbing through and going, God dang it, why wasn't I there? So get it done, man. Go get yourself involved and get on that platform. But, yeah, I think that's going to be a big-time thing.
Yeah, man. JY, you know, it's been crazy, man. I think each event obviously continues to get better and better. And I'm excited for the Grassroots Showcase, man. I'm excited for all the events, but, you know, you talk about Ohio basketball, you talk about NY to LA and hoop scene, man. So many teams. It's going to have that true, I guess that true 2008, 9, 10, 11 feel where teams were playing against and match up against anybody, man. It was.
How old were you in 2008, by the way?
2008.
Oh, don't answer. Yeah. You were a young buck, weren't you? Were you like,
man, I think I was still in middle school, man, or finishing up middle school. That's crazy.
I love it.
Long time.
Well, I think we need to have like a sponsor. Speaking of sponsors, we need to have a sponsor for like an energy drink for that weekend, man. You don't need one. But I think the rest of us,
I'll have a secret stash of coffee.
Mike and everybody else, we need some.
Man, I'm gonna have something stashed for sure. JY, check this. Okay, so one big word that everyone continues to use is exposure, right? Yeah. And you know, with our events and the list of tournaments that we have, players are going to get that chance to get the exposure, I guess most players are looking for. But with that exposure, it also, again, like you talked about earlier, there's a work component that goes to that. You know, what do you think about the whole exposure, getting exposure type deal with AAU basketball nowadays or travel basketball nowadays?
It's just as common as playing with basketball. Yeah. Okay. So, like, we're the most exposed we've ever been in grassroots basketball across every company. So, like, this whole notion that exposure is like the ticket, stop. We've moved past that. We've graduated past that point because everybody's got a stream. Like this weekend at the Atlanta Jam, I think we're going to have 8 different people covering the event, okay, from all over the place. We got a team coming from Alabama, or our staff from Alabama, from Florida, from North Carolina, of course, our Georgia guys. Yeah. I'm out west. And so, like, we've got so many people covering basketball. We've got so many people now on the baseline and the sidelines with video cameras and iPads or phones or whatever we want to record it. Like the notion that there's no such thing, I don't think, as a sleeper anymore, because it's impossible to be a sleeper with technology now. So with all these cameras and with all these connectors that are involved, and I think the important thing is to also make sure you're playing from the right connectors, which is a whole different conversation.
Man.
That the notion of exposure is being provided, that you now have to be able to play your game at a level that equates the capacity of exposure that's being provided. Okay. And so, like, if you're playing all the time, there's always a camera. Guess what? It's also recording all the things that you don't do well.
Yeah.
And college coaches aren't asking you, hey, can you see me the edited version of your game?
Yep.
They want to see the game in totality.
Full game. Yep.
And so everybody's been asking for more exposure. Well, now that it's here, you have to be able to deliver a product as a team or as a player, or as a prospect, that equates the capacity for which it's being provided. And I think that's really important, because we hear this all the time. We see taglines and marketing messages that exposure is everything. Fine, whatever. Yeah. But it's here now. Everybody has it, okay? And so, like, how then do you take advantage of that and string good games together? And that, I think that's the important thing, of making sure that now all these things are on and the red buttons are lit up, being recorded.
Yeah.
How then do you take advantage of that? And so we need to graduate past this notion that exposure is everything, which is fine. But now you've got to deliver. And I think that's something that I'm seeing more and more, because, like, bro, I'm telling you, I go throughout the week and I'm rewatching games. I'm seeing teams that I don't see, where I can look back at the data on a team that maybe, I'll be honest, we don't know much about. But we see, like, the day they went 4-0 on the weekend. I'm like, oh, okay, let's pay attention. Why did this team win? So then I walk it back, watch the video, like, oh, all right, I see it. And so exposure is checking a lot of boxes for a lot of players, thank goodness. But now you've got to be able to do things that justify that benefit that's being provided for you. So, and that's the beautiful part of it. We'll have it again at the Atlanta Jam. We'll have it at the Grassroots Basketball Showcase. We'll have it at the Bob Gibbons Tournament, which, by the way, is filling up fast. Go get signed up. We're going to have it at Best of the South. We're going to have it in Orlando. So everything that we do, we're going to provide that. But the key is just make sure you come to bat and swing for the fences.
Yeah, man. Make sure your game is matching your name. Jay, well, look, I'm excited, man. You know, you dropped the bomb with your rankings, man. I think, you know, as the season goes on, especially what I'm grateful for too, is that people are going to realize how big this association thing is. And when guys are competing, it brings out high level basketball, man. So I'm fired up. I'm excited. Those matchups with some of the new teams we haven't seen yet, it's going to get real, man.
We'll have you covered. We've got to really, like, once again, you know, on Wednesday, man, that color coordinated sheets out, baby. Hey, I'm trying to make sure our staff has seen as many games as we can. So it's I'm excited about that, and we'll have you covered for sure from top to bottom. Make sure you follow us on all of our channels. We'll have Hoopsine FL for Hoopsine Florida, Hoopsine AL for Alabama, Hoopsine NC for North Carolina, Hoopsine TN for Tennessee, of course, Hoopsine GA for Georgia, and of course the mothership at Hoopsine. So we'll have you covered on all of our state channels. I know you'll be there as well. We're gonna have a cool staff of all of our team that's gonna be out there. Let me give those guys a shout out, by the way.
Do it, Jay Watt.
So Josh Tech was a rock star last weekend in Alabama. Just joined our staff. He's been absolutely killing it for the state of Georgia. We'll have
Jay Watt, check this. Listen, man. Josh Tech, I gave him the award for the most innovative dude out there. He was sitting in a lawn chair, man. Like,
what's wrong with sitting in a lawn chair?
No, I'm saying it's amazing. Like, you know, we sit on the chairs, the hard bench. I'm like, man, I've never thought about that. Like, bringing a lawn chair. It's like, you talk about a dude that's dedicated. He was comfy, man.
The dude loves the game. I love it. So Josh Tech will be there. Of course, Brianna's back with us again this weekend. Brianna Patton, who does a great job covering hoops in Georgia. Right. Andre Whitehead, the OG, the legend in Tennessee, will be back with us again. He was out there in Alabama. Make sure you check out his work that he had from Hoover. DeCourtland Christian's going to be with us in Alabama, or Alabama writer is going to be with us in Atlanta. We've got our guy Jerome Reed. You know Jerome, Jay Reed, coming up from Florida. Man. I'm going to cover stuff for us in Florida. Of course, Justin Byerly, the godfather of Carolina basketball, is going to have you covered. And I'll have some select games I'll be watching. By the way, there's a huge difference. 8 a.m. games are tough for you on the East Coast, but imagine getting up 3 hours behind to try to watch the game. So I looked at the schedule on Saturday morning to see who Daniel set the games up, and we built the schedule. I'm like, Daniel, I got to wake up at 5 a.m. on Saturday. So, listen, I might be an old guy, but my grind is still real, and I'm still trying to make sure we get that's covered out there.
Man, that's great.
You'll be there, too. You'll be there. How can I forget? You'll be there.
Listen, we've got a lineup, man. We, like, talk about it. We're going to be exposed. Everybody's going to get coverage. I mean, that literally, our team is that good, man.
Yeah, we have a great
team.
Is
that good. Well, JY, look, man, thanks again for helping me out with this episode today, brother. As always, I love this segment. I do, man. I think it's pretty neat. And for all the viewers out there, man, stay tuned. JY and I've got a lot more coming soon with this segment titled Just a Minute. For again, everyone, make sure you're following us at Hoop Scene and then on all the other state sites as well. Atlanta Jam is going to be crazy and the rest of the season is going to be just as awesome. Again, I'm Austin Smith. I was joined today by our editor-in-chief at Hoop Scene, Justin Young. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Just